Smarterfan. Smarterfan. Yeah. Smarterfan.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another segment of Smarterfan Podcast, where all aspects of sports are on the table. This is Joe and Barry. And Barry, how are you doing, man?
I'm on fire, Joe. You see how hot it is outside?
Yeah, I know.
Joe, I'm on fire.
I
But I'm
know.
feeling all right. Ready for tonight's show. I'm ready. I got a lot of things to talk about. And I'm just ready, Joe. I'm just ready. So you kick it off, good buddy. But I'm right there in the slot, ready to catch the pass.
All right. Tonight, I wanted to talk about a boxer who has faded into obscurity, and that would be one Sonny Liston. Now, his early life, he was born in Arkansas to sharecroppers. Although there's no official record of his birth date, he was. He said the only thing that his old man ever gave him was a beating. He was one of 12 kids.
Wow.
So he had his life started out troubled. And, as he went through life, he had many run-ins with the law. So, and that's where he took up boxing, and he found out that he was good at it. So, when he got out of prison, he fought in the amateur ranks, became Gold Glove champion, and but then he didn't stay amateur for long, maybe less than a year, and then he went to turn pro, but the problem was that nobody would back him except people who had ties to the underworld. So that's how he turned pro, and that's what set him on his path.
Yeah.
And that would plague him for most of his career. His pro career, he fought between 53 and 70. He had a record of 50-4 with 39 knockouts. And he rose through the ranks, but the problem was, as I said, his ties to the mob. Floyd Patterson's handlers refused to give him a shot, because of his ties to the mob. And the funny thing about that is Floyd Patterson's manager, one Customato, had ties to the mob himself. So he kept blocking.
Well, I mean, let me give you a little backstory.
Mm-hmm.
Let me give you a little backstory. Clubs brought liquor, prostitution, and drugs, and the music industry. They're all five fingers of the same hand. They all go together. They all go together. There's a reason why you see sports events and beer commercials. They've been running together from the beginning of time.
Oh yeah.
The sports sells product. It all goes together. Now you got gambling. Gambling's always been a big part of it. So, no one. It is what it is, and it was a big industry, and it's just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger as we see today. Yeah. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but go right ahead. This is good stuff.
It got to a point where Patterson fired Customato in order to give Liston a shot, but at the same time, the NAACP and many black organizations, and even President Kennedy, urged Patterson not to fight Liston because of his mob ties. Because they all had concerns about he would set a bad example for youth if he became champion. So that's what they were worried about. So they finally got the fight on in Comiskey Park on the 25th of September in 1962. And Jersey Joe Walcott, Ezra Charles, and Rocky Marciano all had Patterson winning this fight. And one fighter by the name of Cassius Clay predicted that Liston would win in 5. And as we know, Liston won in the first round. He knocked Patterson out, and they had a rematch in '63, and it was the same result. Patterson got knocked out in the first round. So then, Liston, he came up, and the next one that was up and coming was Cassius Clay, aka Muhammad Ali, and that set up the showdown with him and Liston. Now, in the first fight, Liston was outboxed, outclassed, and overmatched. I think, you know, and but there was controversy in that fight because at one point Clay complained that he couldn't see because there was something in his eyes, and they thought something was afoot then with Liston. So, but but Angelo Dundee told him, he said he tried to clear his eyes as much as he can. And he said, "Look, get out there and run." That's what he told him. Get out there and run. And so that's what he did for a couple of rounds until he got his eyesight back. And then that's when Clay went to work. And, Liston got to the point where he couldn't answer the bell for the 7th round because they said he had a lame shoulder. And there's a lot of debate about that because some years later, one of his handlers said that was all BS and we made that up because we couldn't say he quit in his corner because he wouldn't get a rematch. So
it's a business.
So there's a lot of debate about that. And so
can I ask a few questions?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, there's a very fascinating picture of Sonny Liston over in Europe wearing a Scottish outfit, the bagpipe guys.
Yeah.
And so, he had a huge following on the street. Very colorful guy as you're bringing out, colorful, showed a very lighter side of him that people didn't get to see. The article also talked about his mother. Obviously he had siblings, but you bring out some really good points about the boxing and sports, and these shady characters that influence sport and athletes. Because you got to the other side of it is, economically, it really, people. The world has been struggling out of the Industrial Revolution, and then sport was really. I keep trying to tell you, what keeps sport alive is business, because business needs eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
So, you can get people to watch huge events. That's why you have artists a lot of times entertaining during the Super Bowl who are not getting paid. Why? Because in exchange for getting paid, they're getting to promote their album, promote their music, and create, right, eyeballs. So there's a whole business side behind, over, under, that goes on with sports. And Sonny Liston, as you pointed out, is a very interesting character because graft and vice and mafia have always been part of sport.
Yeah.
Do I need to say anything else but the Roman Colosseum? Hello.
Yeah.
Right?
So then Liston got a second shot at Ali, but once again, organized crime reared its ugly head because the fight was supposed to be in Boston, but the Suffolk County District Attorney put the kibosh on that because of the organized crime issues. So they hashed it out in court, and then finally, the governor of Maine stepped in and said, "Oh, well, you can have the fight here." So that's how the fight wound up in Lewiston, Maine.
Awesome, amazing, great history. Wow.
And and of course that fight was chaotic in itself because of it ended in the first round with what would be known as the Phantom Punch. So,
well, there won't be no Phantom Punches. July 29th between Errol Spence and Bud Crawford. That is going to be a war. That may end up being a three-part series, because that is going to be a war.
But
That's going to be a war.
but the interesting part is that none of the rules were followed in this fight because Ali basically Liston lost this fight with, and he was never counted out because Jersey Joe Walcott was so busy trying to get Ali to the neutral corner, which he refused to do, that the count never started, and the timekeeper wound up calling the fight. And
Hmm.
then next thing they know, the fight was over and Ali won. So
Okay.
that's how that went down. So a lot of fans were yelling foul and stuff. And, that's been a debate for years now about that phantom punch, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So the sad part is Liston was found dead by his wife. And they said that there was speculation about the mob having something to do with that, because they said his last fight he was supposed to take a dive against the Bayonne bleeder Chuck Wepner, and because he didn't do that, they think the mob killed him over that. They say he might have been killed by drug dealers because it was said that he was a heroin addict. You know, it was just very sad. And he's I thought he was buried in Chicago, but he's buried in Vegas, in Paradise Memorial Gardens near McCarran Airport, and the inscription on his tombstone just says "a man." And that was it, you know.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
you know, he had a very very troubled life, to say the least.
Yeah.
So,
As far as we can tell. But I
mhm.
think in his own way, he was a hero in his own way.
All right, Barry. So you said you wanted to talk about Saquon.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Man, there's so much information going on between his agent, the contract, he offered the Giants offered him,
Mm-hmm.
what he rejected, and a lot of that I always cut in half as newspaper blah blah blah, right?
Mm.
But what I'm very disturbed about is that, and I really, really I want to get this across, that athletes got to take more responsibility. You can't give it all to the agent. You gotta be able to take the temperature. In my humble opinion, you got to be able
Mm.
to set yourself up. Markets always change. The game always changes,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to change with it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Ideally, yeah, there was a time you could be a Walter Payton and get a long term deal, and maybe be with a franchise forever,
Right.
But, as I say, the money, as I said to my friend I was talking to today, the money is just so large
Mm.
that even if you have a losing franchise like the Cardinals, you still
Yeah.
make money. You still make money. You still make money. I
Yeah.
mean, at least half of the teams in the NFL are 500, but they will make money because the product is the product,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And when you have these market forces, just like in any other industry, you got to really realize what what you can do, and just how to reposition yourself. I mean, you look at Derrick Henry, right?
Mm.
That franchise is not going anywhere. He's been there, what, 4 or 5 years. They haven't figured out a passing game. They still don't have a quarterback, but he's still running the ball. And you know they, as I told someone that I know very well, wow, I thought AJ Brown was a bust. Ends up in the Super Bowl with a real quarterback and Jalen
Mm-hmm.
Hurts and the Eagles. Doesn't look like a
Mm-hmm.
bust now.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like a bad receiver now, but he was in Tennessee. So
Yeah.
again, I always say franchises, front offices, GMs have a big impact on your career as a player.
Mm-hmm.
And you can end up giving some of your best years to an organization, even though you're carrying the pill and carrying the team. But it comes to negotiation time, they tell you, well, you got a little bit, tread on you. Well, I got the tread
Mm-hmm.
on me because you didn't build an offense.
Mm.
That's always been my line with Barry Sanders.
Oh yeah.
Like, like
Yeah.
How in the world you can't figure out fonts how to put a passing game? I ain't say it got to be Montana, but you can't find a B quarterback, some B receivers with that kind of talent in the backfield.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
ridiculous to me. It's ridiculous. And they did it twice. They did it
yeah,
with Barry Sanders and they did it with Megatron.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Yet,
And they
yet, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
well, and they wouldn't put an offensive line in front of Andrew Luck.
With the Colts.
Yeah,
Yeah, with the Colts.
that poor kid got the hell beat out of him.
Yeah, yeah. And and then they try to make it like, well, was Andrew really committed? And this is why I always say there's certain franchises, at least half of them, you'll never see them in the running for a real Super Bowl. They're
Mm-hmm.
just not. They're just not. They're just not built that way. They just don't have the juju.
Yeah,
They just don't. They just don't. And so, that was one of the genius things that Mr. Archie Manning did when it came to Eli. Nah, he won't be going to the Chargers. He'll be going to the Giants.
he did that with Peyton too.
That's right. That's
He
right.
did that with Peyton.
Because he who would know better than Archie Manning what it's like to be in a losing organization that really doesn't have a commitment to winning,
Yeah.
but they have a commitment. See, people say, well, how can you say that? I say because when the money gets so large that the owner is making money anyway, and you get to sell hope. Hope is a very powerful drug. You
Yeah.
know, oh,
Yeah.
next year we were close, and people buy it. People buy it. So I just say, Quan. I just say, hey, in my humble opinion, get get a competitive contract, and if you have to have ball out, because I really think that these 2 seasons can be great seasons for him,
Mm-hmm.
and just bring him back to the table.
Right.
Bring him back to the table, and if not, you'd have put up enough to go somewhere else. Could you imagine Saquon Barkley in the backfield with Patrick Mahomes?
Mm.
Could you imagine
Yeah.
that?
It would be interesting. That's to say the
That'd be
least.
scary.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be scary. But that's all I got for you, Saquon, tonight. That's my Saquon rant. I've been holding that for 2 weeks. So thank you so much, Joe. Thank you so much.
Okay. I just wanted to touch on the NBA. Bronny James, he was rushed to the hospital.
Mm,
He collapsed, went into cardiac arrest,
mm.
during practice. He was put in the ICU, and he's since been released and he's in stable condition and he's resting at
Wow.
home. So thank God for that. That just brings back memories of Len Bias.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. But I think what's very disturbing, talking to a good friend of mine who's a CDC doctor,
Mm-hmm.
her position is it has a lot to do with the jab. A lot of this has a lot to do with the jab
Mm.
and these athletes because the research that's coming out is that how are all these athletes and people who've taken this jab all suffering the same responses?
Mm.
There has to
Mm.
be. I said, wow, I never. She says, I'm a doctor. How are they all having the same? There was a country music singer, same issue,
Mm.
you know? And
Yeah.
she says, you have to have a common denominator. And the only common denominator is the jab.
Mm.
I said, wow, doc, really? She says, yeah, there are a lot of doctors who are coming out
Mm.
and what they're seeing in people who don't make it in the autopsies is a lot of blood clots.
Uh, yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have blood clots, which is blocking blood flow. You're gonna have what? Cardiac arrest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what you're gonna have. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's very disturbing. But I did get hit over the head a couple times when Mr. Brown out of the Celtics signed that 304.
Mm-hmm. I
And
was getting to that. Yes, but
oh,
go
okay,
on.
okay, all right, go ahead.
Well, well, yeah, he signed that 5-year deal for 304 mil. But he said he wants to bring back Black Wall Street to Boston.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to. He really wants to jump into the community,
Mm-hmm.
and he wants to try to close the racial wealth disparity, and he wants to play a role in creating jobs, resources and businesses to stimulate the economy. What I think is something that he's giving back,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I highly commend him for that, because he's trying, and
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so yeah, it's just uplifting to hear a story like that.
Oh, without a doubt.
You
Without a
know,
doubt, I don't know if you're asking for my opinion, but absolutely, I salute him as well.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but it'd be interesting. I responded to it. I made a comment regarding this, and I said, well, it'd be nice if you could get a matching situation with the Patriots and the Boston Bruins,
Mm,
and your owner of the Celtics to all match whatever you put up
right.
to pull forth that initiative, because
Yeah.
it would all
Yeah.
benefit New England,
Yep.
right?
It certainly would.
And as I said to somebody today, the owners are making more money than anybody,
Exactly.
and they're not talking about helping. But again, the other side of the coin is I keep trying to tell you that tell people there's profit in poverty. There's profit in poverty. That's why jails
Mm.
went private, because they could
Hmm.
make money. And
Yes.
corporations took advantage of that free, cheap labor of a nickel a day to get their products made.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? So that's
Yeah.
why you really don't hear with people with these extremes amount of wealth. I mean, look at this example. Now, be quiet. Could you? I'm a Prime member of Amazon, right?
Okay.
So think about this. They were going through this whole thing, right? So we have a food crisis in the United States. There's a lot of kids who go to bed hungry. So
Hmm.
why not incentivize your labor pool that whatever they order, whatever they buy, they only pay half the bill. But what they need to do is encourage their friends and neighbors to become Prime members and shop as well.
Mm.
You get two benefits. You're able to
Hmm.
take care of your people, who will probably give some of that food to what? Other people and family members, and you
Hmm.
increase your Prime membership, which is really a private bank,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you do something like that,
It's.
right? Because there's an incentive in poverty.
Hmm.
There's an incentive, a sick incentive in keeping people struggling. Because when people are struggling to figure out how to put food on the table, they don't have enough time to pay attention to what rights and privileges are being um, negotiated away by politicians to keep lying to them.
Hmm.
I
Yep.
mean, I had somebody say something funny to me, and he said, "What do you think about Ron DeSantis and the situation in Florida in history?" I said, "Obviously, he was one of those students who sat in the back of the class. The governor, you can be governor, doesn't necessarily mean you're bright,
Nope.
doesn't mean you're smart. And if anything, you're looking like a puppet, and that's just what he is. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just a sad state of affairs. But
Yep.
Miami, guess what I saw today? I saw
Hmm.
I saw Tua out there in the field throwing passes to Tyreek Hill and his receivers. He's
Hmm.
looking good, Joe. So next week, we're going to have to talk about
Hmm.
Miami and their latest moves, because I think they're making a run. I think they're
Well,
about to make a run.
if they can keep him upright.
Joe, I'm not a miracle worker, Joe. I'm not a miracle worker.
Yeah, but you know what I'm saying.
I got you. If they can figure it out, if they could figure it out. But he looked good though. But I'm fearful for the guy, the young
Yeah.
kid. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
You know.
So
So.
yeah, if we can keep him upright. So we got a lot of stuff. I'm coming with NASCAR next week. I'm coming with NASCAR, and I'm coming with Formula One.
Are you
Formula.
down for next year?
I'm locked in.
Okay.
I'm locked in. I'm
All
locked in.
right. I'll hold you
I'm
to
locked
it.
in, but I know you will, buddy. And I really regret that I didn't go this year, but I just had to deal with what I had to deal with. But
Yeah.
I'm putting everything in order, and
Hmm.
Formula One and NASCAR God willing, next year.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I got to have that experience.
Oh yes, it is an experience you will enjoy. I got to tell you.
And I already framed the T-shirt you bought me. I framed it. It got on my wall downstairs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother was like, you're not gonna wear it." No, no. I'll buy one next year and wear that one. But this one with the King Richard Petty, nah,
Yeah.
I'm not wearing it. I'm not wearing it.
And he's a class act all the way too.
Absolutely, the King,
Yes, he
the
is.
King, unbelievable. But yeah, interesting things going on. Interesting things. I don't know how long Trey Young is going to be in Atlanta. I don't know if Atlanta can get it together. I know the Yankees. I told you, Joe, when it gets near to October, the Yankees start to pull it all together. I told you.
Let's
Watch and
hope.
see.
Let's hope
Watch and
because they
see.
look like the Three Stooges the other night in the
Well,
outfield.
yeah. I know what you mean, buddy. But you'll see. You'll see how it comes. But I'm already feeling. It's such a shame. I'm already getting the football flavor in the air. I'm already feeling September. I'm already feeling. Can't wait to football season. It's crazy, right?
Yeah, that's because the Yankees ain't gave us nothing to cheer about lately.
You're so hard. You're so hard, Joe. You're so hard.
But
You're
it's
merciless. You're merciless.
true. It's true though.
I can't argue with you. Really.
Yeah.
Exactly. Haters go hate. I can't argue with you. I wish I could, but I can't. You see how I keep pushing it off to October. I'm trying to keep hope alive, Joe. I'm trying to keep hope alive.
Yeah. Well, hope, yes, it's still there, but it's hanging on.
It's hanging on. I tell you, what are we gonna do? But the world of sport, the world of business, they all intersect and intertwine in very, very interesting ways. But I said something to a friend of mine who's a big Jets fan. I said, you ever notice how they always talk about the athletes' money, but they never talk about the owners?
Nope.
He said, huh? Notice how they always talk about the athletes' money, but not the person that's paying them.
Nope.
Who's got to be making a whole lot more money to be able to pay one person that amount of money.
No doubt.
He's like,
No
where do
doubt.
you come up with this stuff? Where do you come up with this stuff? I said, it's just observation.
Yeah.
Just observation.
Yeah,
I mean, just observation. That's all.
I know one thing. Uncle Jed better pay Zach, or Dak's gonna be running for his life.
He better pay somebody.
Zach Martin, he's holding out right now.
Yeah, well, you gonna pay. You gotta pay. You gotta pay.
So
You gotta pay. You gotta pay. You gotta do something. They ain't won nothing. They ain't won nothing, so you might as well pay. You ain't won nothing.
Yeah.
So you might as well pay. So hey, have you heard? Is Ezekiel there? Not there? Going? Leaving? Staying? What's the problem? What's going on?
He's still in limbo. Last I heard.
Okay. So interesting.
But
Interesting.
well, we'll see.
We'll see. Well, a lot going on. As always, in the world of sports, and Smarterfan podcast is always bringing you the new and the latest and the greatest. Could we be having fans a conversation where the Jets are actually 10-3 in the season?
Ooh.
And what would that look like? 10-3, the Jets.
Well, the Jet fans were already talking Super Bowl. So.
Oh, they're on fire. They're on fire. I think I saw a couple running down the street today. Their hair's on fire. They're on fire.
Yeah.
They're on fire. But I have my, my usual Bengal people. Well, Barry, I don't know. I said, he's not going to be there in 3 years. He's not.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
How could you be so heartless, Barry? It's just your franchise, the Bengals. They're just not built like that.
Yeah.
Just not.
Yeah.
It's nothing personal. It's nothing personal. Them, the Cardinals, the Jaguars, though they got a little hope, but the Jaguars, you got, who else is what I say? I don't think the Rams are going to be back in it. Detroit, maybe. Detroit's making a push, but
the Rams mortgaged their future.
Well, you're gonna find out how good of a coach you got. Because I don't, and the reason why I say that is because there's no shortage of talent.
Mm-hmm.
There's a shortage of skilled coaches to coach up talent, but there's no shortage of talent. That's what always bothered me about Detroit. Listen to this. Here Detroit is in the midst of Michigan, Michigan State, University of Michigan, Ohio State, University of Indiana. I could even throw Penn State in there. And you're telling me you can't field a better team than you fielded, surrounded by all that college talent? That's a coaching problem. That's a coaching problem.
Well,
and I want to talk more about that in the next Smarterfan podcast, because a lot of entities think it's a talent, and I think that's sort of done because they think people are stupid. And we got that person, and we got this person, and we got that person. It's talent. Another organization that won't win. Cleveland.
What?
Watch. Texans, they won't win. People go, how could you say that? They got Deshaun. It says it has nothing to do with the talent. It has to do with the coaching and the front office. They're not built like that. They're just not built like that. They still haven't figured out what to do with Chubb, who you literally can't stop on the field. They still can't win.
Well, it's going to be an interesting season, to say the least.
John,
but that's a story for another day.
I love doing that because you always get that tone, and you're like, that Barry. Yeah.
Well,
you gave me some good laughs. But hey, buddy, listen, Smarterfan Podcast, we'll be back at you next week with more Smarterfan information about sports, business, and what makes the world turn. And that's sport. Thanks
all
again.
right. Take care.
Have a good one, buddy.
All right, you too.
Smarterfan.